Welcome everyone, my name is Stuart. Today we are going to be looking at GEVO. This will be a little bit different than maybe some other GEVO Inc. Stock analysis videos that you've seen. What I'm going to do is take a look at kind of the overall trend that we're seeing across Stocktwits and Twitter, because these are main social media platforms where people share, discuss investment ideas and insights. So super useful to glean information from. Then we'll look a little bit more into GEVO, what's been going on recently, and where we think it's headed in the near future. So if you get a chance, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Love getting feedback from people. It helps me make better videos. If there's anything else you want to see about GEVO, drop it below. Happy to do another video, dive a little bit deeper into some things you're seeing. Awesome. So let's get started. This is something I put together a while ago because I noticed that GEVO is kind of a popular stock on Stocktwits and Twitter. We'll dive into it a little bit more, but essentially what I saw is that the Stocktwits forum has a little over 100,000 members. That's quite significant. If I think about the average number of followers on Stocktwits for a particular stock, aside from like the big players, it's probably in the 20, 30,000. So that's significant. Daily message volume is also quite high. I'd say the typical message volume I see is about the high hundreds, so GEVO's double that, which is quite good to see. What's interesting, so this was some news that came out a while ago. This was quite a while back, but what popped out is Citigroup started GEVO at a buy and issued a $5 price target. So that's a good sign. That means Citigroup is now covering GEVO, and they've already initiated a fairly strong price target for it. Okay, let's jump over to the social dashboard itself. So I already have GEVO pulled up. This essentially brings in real-time data from Twitter and Stocktwits. It's super useful. If you hold a number of stocks, great for tracking them. If you're looking for new stocks to invest in, it's an awesome screener for that. So what I did is just search GEVO. Boom, here it is. What we're looking at right now is within the last week, I have price here in green and then impressions here in purple. So just quickly on impressions, it's the number of people that see a tweet that has the hashtag GEVO. So if someone has 10,000 followers and they tweet out something about GEVO, that means 10,000 people see it. That's 10,000 impressions. So typically the higher the impressions, the more interest that people have in GEVO, especially when it comes to day trading, or actually in terms of potentially taking in an investment or a position in the stock. So very useful metric to track. I'll share a link below so you guys can get access to this, but there's a ton of different metrics you can look at. So, whether it's price, impressions, likes, volume, Google trend, which is another very interesting metric to look at. But yeah, you can filter all of it around here. So looking at GEVO itself, within the last week, we saw a price, this was on April 4th, hit a high within this time frame of just over $5 a share. Unfortunately, over the last week has been dropping pretty significantly. I'd say if I think about the overall market in this time, it's been on a downtrend, so it's not too terrible. What would be bad is if the overall market was in an uptrend and GEVO was going down. That would not be great. But this is kind of like how the market's been, I'd say, in the last week, well, last few months. It feels like. If we zoom out a little bit, last 2 weeks, again, GEVO March 28th, about $4.50 a share, jumped up, and then, like I said, we saw this almost $5 a share mark on April 4th. And then since then, it's kind of been dropping. But what was interesting is, if I jump into this, the weekly again, are these impressions. So we see that when there's a spike in impressions, there's typically a bit of a jump in price. There's a bit of a correlation there. So this happened around noon. This was on April 6th, bit of a jump. And then in the morning, we saw another pop in impressions, little jump here. This is when you see these straight lines here, this is overnight. So, market close at 4 p.m. then opens again at 9:30. But obviously someone was tweeting about GEVO at midnight. And then since we're on the weekend right now, we're not going to see any prices. But what is useful for GEVO is what people are talking about. So it's kind of seeing the most recent tweets that have the hashtag GEVO, and this gives you a good sense of what's going on, what's trending, what people are talking about. It gives you that other kind of piece of information if you're looking to take a position in GEVO or want to see what's happening with it. So I won't dive in too much into it, but this is a great tool from that perspective. Okay, last thing I wanted to show you. So we talked about the overall trend. GEVO's fairly active on social channels, Stocktwits and Twitter. But let's take a look at kind of the stock itself in a little bit more detail on the Utradea stock page. What we have here, typical overview, the sector, market cap, etc. Trading view chart, great for kind of the more detailed, granular look at what's been going on from a price perspective. Just going to switch to the daily view. What's interesting is now some of these are a bit dated, but essentially people are either initiating a buy or moving from hold to buy for GEVO. So that's always a good sign. We zoom out a little bit. This was 8 months ago on August. So yeah, they initiated from a hold to a buy. And this was when GEVO was about $6.50 a share. So you'd have to think at these prices, GEVO is probably a pretty attractive investment. Obviously, the huge run up with markets in 2021 shouldn't really be indicative of the price itself now. You're kind of looking at this time frame, I'd say. Again, this correlates kind of with the overall market trend, but I'd say this trend we're seeing in the last, month and a half, that's kind of a good sign. Recent dip in the last week, but I'd say if you're thinking about taking a position in GEVO, now might be not a bad time. So yeah, not investment advice, but I'd say something to consider looking at a little bit more. So hopefully you found this useful. Like I said, let me know, drop a comment below. Happy to dive into something a little bit more detail around GEVO. So if you want to see that, let me know, and happy investing.